Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Lalit Soni and I welcome you all in this live session by Drishti IAS. We will be discussing Indian Express. Today we will be taking few news. There was not much in the newspaper of 23rd of November. So we will take up these three news. PM to G20. PM has given some address to G20 and he has mentioned some point regarding the humanitarian truce which has been happening in Gaza Strip for 4 days. Okay. Then humanitarian pause in Gaza. We'll talk about this and we can see editorial on this as well. After that, Pakistan applies for BRICS membership. You know that BRICS is kind of now expanding. It has already informally called as BRIC Plus. So basically, Pakistan has also applied for the membership. In the last summit, there was 6 countries which were added to the group. Okay, which will be joining the group formally in the next summit. Okay, so after that, we'll be looking an editorial for the same and we'll look at some news from the world affairs. After that, we'll look at the practice questions. Okay, so let's start. We'll see the first article, that is, hope all hostages are released. Gaza war should not become a regional war. Actually, the thing is, war has impacts. Okay, when we are talking about these issues in Middle East has always been the war-prone zone, but there was some hope that it will be a war-free because of the involvement of Egypt and UAE, etc., and involvement of USA in brokering the peace deal with Saudi. Okay, so considering all that, we were thinking that now Middle East would be a good place to invest, etc., but then this particular thing happened on October 7, because of which all those hopes were shattered. Now the thing is, there is a 4 days humanitarian truce which has been brokered by mostly Qatar, but other than that, the Egypt and USA has their role to play in that. Now considering that, our PM has said that hope that all the hostages are released, because in this particular case, in the 4 days truce, they are saying that they will be releasing 50 hostages in return of 150 Palestinian prisoners which has been in the Israel. Okay, so and then he said that this war should not become a regional war. Okay, as I told you that war has impacts in the region, so that was the concern. He has said that once the deal which we are talking about, this truce deal, the deal once implemented will be the first major diplomatic breakthrough and pause in fighting since the war began on October 7th. After that, this will be the first time there will be any humanitarian pause. Okay, this pause was necessary because of various things that is been happening in the area. There was this casualties in the civilians. There was a need of aid, financial and medical aid, etc. So that 4 days ceasefire, you can say ceasefire, but it is not actually a ceasefire. It is only a temporary 4-day pause. Okay, because the Israeli PM has said that they will not stop until they get what they want. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so he has said that G20 strongly condemns terrorism and violence. There is a zero tolerance to terrorism. So basically, he has addressed this in G20 virtual summit. Okay, and the other day there was this BRICS virtual summit which he could not attend, and Mr. Jaishankar filled in for him, and he has said the same things about this particular area, that terrorism, humanitarian crisis, and one more thing he has talked about. We have taken that article. Now the second thing is, killing of innocent people, particularly women and children, is unacceptable. Okay, humanitarian assistance must be provided readily, effectively and safely. Fourth, G20 welcomes agreement on humanitarian pause and release of hostages. Fifth is, a two-state solution is a permanent solution for Israel and Palestine issue. We have discussed this two-state solution already. Okay, so you can look at the previous session. Otherwise, I can simply say that when we are talking about two-state solution, it is a kind of US proposed deal wherein there will be a state for Israel which is already existing, that is Israel. Okay, and then there will be a state for Palestinians. Okay, so ultimately, when there will be a state for Palestinian people, then there will be a solution to this crisis. Okay, now sixth is, restoration of peace and stability is necessary, and seventh is, dialogue and diplomacy are the only means to solve geopolitical conflicts. So my point here to take these statement is not to give you the facts, but the thing is, you can use such statements in your answer writing or in your way forward as well. Okay, if they are asking about, let's say, any issue, Ukraine or Russia issue, you can say that restoration and peace and stability is necessary, and dialogue and diplomacy are the only means to do it and not wars. Okay, so that is why I have taken this. Other than that, he has mentioned an AI summit. Okay, he has said that in next month we will be India will be hosting an AI summit, because recently you must have heard about this deep fake, etc. These deep fakes are creating problems in the social media platforms, etc. So that is why, because of all these things are AI generated, so we are kind of going for an a path where we can generate a regulation for AI. So that is why there is this summit. India will be hosting a global artificial intelligence partnership summit. Okay, and this is because of the negative use of AI is causing concern, and it should be used responsibly, and there should be a global regulation of artificial intelligence. Okay, so that is why they have proposed this summit in India next month. He has mentioned this. Other than that, he has mentioned one more fund. All these things will be important for your prelims. Okay, this social impact fund. He has proposed a social impact fund for implementation of digital public infrastructure in global south countries. When we are talking about this digital public infrastructure, here you can talk about this fintech, etc., or other than that internet connectivity, all these things you can talk about. Okay, so internet based financial services, internet based service delivery in government governance, etc., all these things require a digital public infrastructure. Okay, and he has talked about a fund which will ultimately be in favor of global south countries, wherein we can develop a digital public infrastructure, and India has said that we will be committing 25 million US dollar towards this particular fund. Okay, other than that, in this particular address, he has also mentioned that India's presidency of G20 this time would be called as People's G20, because we have actually included African Union as a member in G20, which is kind of significance, because it says much more about inclusivity. Okay, you can say mostly inclusivity of the global south in the union. Okay, so that is about this particular article. So let's move forward. There is this temporary truce, 50 hostages in exchange for 150 Israeli jails. Okay, so now the thing is, as I told you, that they will be exchanging 150 prisoners from Israeli jail for their 50 hostages, and now there will be a 4 days truce. Okay, Qatar mediated this truce. Other than that, there is a role of USA, etc. Okay, Israel and Hamas agreed on a ceasefire in Gaza for at least 4 days. Okay, this will be the first time in brutal near 7 weeks old war reached after mediation by Qatar and held around the world as a sign of progress that could ease the suffering of Gaza civilians and bring Israeli hostages home. So basically, ultimately, after 7 to 8 weeks of war, now they are going for a pause of 4 days. Okay, so it is not exactly a ceasefire, it is just a temporary ceasefire, or you can say a humanitarian pause. The logic behind taking this particular news was because we will be discussing an editorial on this. Seize the truth. Humanitarian pause in Gaza must be built on a lasting solution, requires a wise leadership and not maximalist positions. Maximalist position you can understand by some kind of extreme position which has been taken by the Israeli PM Netanyahu. He has said that we will not stop till we get what we want. Okay, so that is an kind of extreme position or maximalist position. So author here is saying that it will not result into any kind of long term peace, sustainable peace. Okay, so what you really require is a wise leadership which can actually talk it out. Okay, now humanitarian pause in Gaza announced on Wednesday is not a ceasefire. Okay, reportedly, even as the deal was being discussed by the Israeli cabinet, airstrike continued. He said that while they were discussing the deal, there was an airstrike which has been done by Israeli on the Gaza area. Okay, but there is a window of 4 days which will actually help in medical supplies, other aids, etc. So that was really needed. Okay, other than that, when we are talking about this deal, this was brokered by USA, Qatar and Egypt. Qatar has the important role to play because they have directly influenced Hamas. And then when we are talking about USA, USA is acting as a channel between Hamas leadership and the Israeli leadership. Okay, and then there is exchange of this 50 Israeli I told you about. Then there is a strategical and political component to humanitarian window. We are talking about this particular time period of truce for 4 days for humanitarian aid, but ultimately if you see behind it, there is a strategic you can say object behind it. There will be a time of 4 days where leaders can talk it out. Okay, they can work on a long term solution if at all they want it. Okay, ultimately those people who are those countries which are in the neighborhood, they will be wanting it. Okay, because no one want a war in the neighborhood, because ultimately it will impact your investment, it will impact your economy. So ultimately the stakeholders in the area will talk it out. Okay, there are other people like Russia and China, they are only you can say talking about moral aspect of the war, that you should go for the peace dialogue, etc. But ultimately important role is to be played by those people who are living in that particular area, all the neighbors, let's say Egypt or Qatar, and other people who has stake in the area like USA wants influence in the Middle East. Okay, after there will be a humanitarian window, India also has a role to play. Okay, so all these things we'll see. A humanitarian pause distinct from a ceasefire has been announced in Gaza for 4 days. We have talked about it. This pause, facilitated by Qatar, the US and the Egypt, involves terms of cessation of violence and prisoner actions involving 50 Israelis and 150 Palestinian prisoners. Countries like China and Russia have voiced support for peace, but the pause was brokered by the regional stakeholders. As I told you, they will have an important role to play, highlighting their direct involvement and influence in the region. Role of USA, Qatar and Egypt in brokering this pause is crucial, saving lives, emphasizing the need of the global support and aid for the suffering of the Gaza. As I told you, Egypt is the place which has this Rafah crossing. Okay, and they have all trying to get access to Gaza Strip for their humanitarian aid. India has also sent some aid meanwhile. When we are talking about Qatar, Qatar has some say, or you can say, in the Hamas leadership. So they have been continuously in contact with them, and USA is acting as a channel between Hamas leadership and the Israeli leadership. Other than that, India is urged to contribute to aid and supplies to Gaza, while also potentially aiding in brokering a resolution. So when we are talking about India's role, as I told you, Mr. Jaishankar has mentioned in the BRICS virtual summit yesterday. So we'll talk about that, what he has said and what other things India can do. India has a lot of stake. As I told you, we have recently announced a economic corridor in this area. So ultimately India has stakes in this area. So we have to be cautious about taking steps. We have to be involved in the process so that we can ensure the peace in the region. Okay. So let's see what India has to do in that. Regional leaders have opportunity to contemplate a way forward during this pause, aligning with India's external affairs minister's proposed roadmap. As I told you that he has proposed roadmap in the BRICS virtual summit. He has said that we have to first talk about the humanitarian aid. We have to focus on the humanitarian aid because this is the immediate thing to do. Because they have ultimately suffered, civilians have suffered, so we have to take care of that. Then cessation of hostilities, okay, ending of terrorism. So when we are talking about humanitarian aid, and then cessation of hostilities from the sides of Israel, and then ending the terrorism. These Hamas and the Palestinian people should not resort to terrorism to achieve their goals. When we are talking about right to self-determination, it doesn't mean you will go for terrorism to achieve all those objects. Okay. Other than that, military attacks should stop. All these things should stop, and pursuing two-state solution for lasting peace. So ultimately he has said that three things, that for now what you have to do is humanitarian aid you should provide, and cessation of the hostility or the violence. First stop that. Then if you are looking for the medium term solution, you should not resort to any kind of military attacks and terrorism. And then when we are talking about the long lasting solution or the long term solution, that is the two-state solution. Ultimately what we are saying is that we are not supporting this current incidents which has happened or which has been started by the Hamas. We are not supporting the Israel's this hostilities which is being they are being conducting. And third thing is, we support the cause of Palestinians when we are talking about two-state solution. Okay. So all these things has been suggested by Mr. Jaishankar in this BRICS summit. Call for leadership that transcends conflict and aims for peace exist, contrasting with the Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu's recent statement emphasizing continued pursuit of the object through war. As I told you, he has been taking an extreme position that we will continue war unless we get that. Okay, they are actually trying to remove Hamas from that particular area. Okay, so that is why he is taking this extreme maximalist approach here, and that won't work in the long run. Okay. Other than that, what leadership should do, what is the way forward, we will discuss. Like as I told you, they have a particular role to play. They can talk it out. Stakeholders can come together and they can build a pressure on Israel not to go for this military attacks, etc. anymore. Okay, so that is what we can do, and that is what which have been given in the editorial. Okay. So moving further, in the world affairs, Pakistan applies for BRICS, seeks Russia's support. So basically, when we are talking about this initial grouping, it started with let's say RIC, Russia, India, China, and then Brazil was added because they were growing at a faster rate. In this area, when we are talking about the 90s and 2000s, these countries were growing faster, and then South Africa was added to this grouping. Ultimately, earlier this grouping was seen as an platform where you can go and invest. It is a kind of opportunity where you can invest for the global world, you can say a global economy. Okay, ultimately it has the economic notion earlier, and then when these countries rose to a particular place where they had geopolitical significance, this grouping become an international organization which has geopolitical role to play. Okay, and now that we know that there is existing a Western architecture, and now China and Russia are trying to create an alternative architecture. Okay, let's say we can say there existing UN, okay, which is a Western you can say a dominance organization. When we are talking about BRICS, so it is dominated by the global South. Okay, so now Russia and China are trying to build another architecture, okay, and they are trying to expand this particular organization, because as I told you, economic objective of this particular organization is not it is not limited to economic only. Now it is a geopolitical organization, so ultimately they would want to expand it. Okay, other than that, they want to expand their sway as well. Okay, countering the hegemony of USA. India is in both the blocks as of now because India is close to USA, but BRICS is a platform where India can influence China. Okay, Russia also is a, you can say India and Russia has a better understanding and better relationship. Okay, so we cannot altogether ignore this particular platform. And now when this platform is growing or expanding, it will actually be an opportunity for us to leverage it. Okay. Now Pakistan also want to apply in this particular platform because it is expanding. Why is that Pakistan want to apply it? We already have a platform Shark, which is dormant because Pakistan and India has issues because of which that platform is dormant. Okay, otherwise that platform has a huge potential. But the thing is, now BRICS, Pakistan wants to enter into BRICS. What are the reasons? Okay, so here you can see there is a change in domestical, or you can say domestic politics in the Pakistan, or the dynamics in politics of Pakistan is changing. Recently you must have heard about that there is a military has taken some power dominance over there, and now the former PM Nawaz Sharif has come back. Okay, so ultimately he will be fighting the elections, and he has said that we need to change approach towards India. So Pakistan is now acknowledging the fact that they cannot go for war with, or you can say a conflict with India, because ultimately their economy is not stable right now. Okay, there is a threat of terrorism, the monster they had created now ultimately biting themselves. So that is why economic crisis, if we consider the terrorism related activities which has been happening in Pakistan, return of Nawaz Sharif has changed the domestic political dynamics there. And then when we are talking about the changing approach towards India, they are now acknowledging that they cannot go for a conflict with India, because with neighbors you cannot go for a fight for a long time. Okay, so now they are changing the approach with India as well, and BRICS can be a platform where India and Pakistan can talk, if at all they have this intentions to change the approach towards India. Okay, but there will be another side to the coin, that is there is China present there, and China and Pakistan has a you can say this economic interdependence, or I will say ki Pakistan is more dependent on China. Other than that, there are this economic corridor, China Pakistan economic corridor, all these things, and their interests are against India. So ultimately either they can uh, uh, rally or bandwagoning there, but for being optimistic, we can say that that can act as a platform for Pakistan and India to talk. Okay, there is a change in dynamics internationally. If we are talking about world order is also changing, and Pakistan has this particular, you can say, needs, because of which they cannot have this harsh instance with India. Okay, so that is why they are now applying for BRICS membership, and they are seeking Russia's support. Okay, because to enter it, Russia and China are the dominating bodies there, countries there, and India, we know that might not support entry of Pakistan in this particular organization. So they are vouching for the support of Russia. Pakistan has applied for the membership in the BRICS grouping. Pakistan has filed an application to join BRICS group of nations in 2024. It is counting on Russia's assistance during the membership process. Okay, we have added additional of 6 new members in the last summit. The grouping of emerging economies was set for a biggest expansion. Okay, so as I told you, this is expanding now. This year BRICS summit has held in South Africa, where Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE was added as a new member. They will be formally joining this grouping in 2024. Okay, so that is about this particular article. Here you can see the membership. Okay, here these are the original member of BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, and then these are newly added 6 members which has been added now. Now this organization is referred as BRICS plus informally, not formally, but you can say Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Okay, so ultimately this is the region, Asian region. Other than that, they are expanding in this particular areas as well. So now slowly it is becoming a global organization. Okay, so that is about BRICS. In the miscellaneous news, you can say, in diplomatic thaw, India resumes e-visa services for Canadians. So ultimately, you know that there was this rise in tensions in India and Canada in the past few months because of this killing of this Khalistani separatists there, and Canada has accused India is having some kind of link to the murder, but ultimately we have said that we have no link whatsoever. And because of this instance of Canadian government, there was this tension rising between India and Canada. Now they have recently, they last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks back, they have started giving visa for like medical emergencies, for other few things, but not to the tourist. Okay, but now they are resuming the e-visa service which has been terminated earlier. Okay, this is, you can say, it is the move that is to de-escalate the tensions which has been rising. Okay, so you can say it's just a initiative of truce between the countries. Okay, India resumes e-visa services for Canadian nationals. Last month, India has restored visa services in some categories, including entry visa, business visa, medical visa and conference visa, but tourist visa were still not given. Okay, so while Ottawa has not withdrawn the allegation and India has refused to cooperate. So ultimately, as I told you that they have not withdrawn the allegations of the murder and involvement of the murder of India, that separatist somehow. Okay, and India is not cooperative with the investigation going on there, because they said we have no links, why should we go for that. So ultimately that is the news, not much, that is just a de-escalatory move here. Okay, then there is this goldfish. Okay, so that particular goldfish, or you can say black spotted croaker, has been given status of state fish of Gujarat. Okay, the black spotted croaker, known as goldfish, was declared the state fish of Gujarat due to its economic value and rarity in the Indo-Pacific region. So basically, when we are talking about this article, why this has been given the status vagera is not important for you. Only thing important is that the name goldfish and black spotted croaker. Okay, they might use it in the pre questions etc. prelims, for prelims. So ultimately you should know that, and you should know that what is the use of this fish. Okay, why this fish is so important. Okay, so let's see. This is the picture of the fish, you can see here. Okay. It aims to support conservation efforts, as when we are talking about some particular species and we designate it as a state fish or something, it ultimately attaches conservation efforts with it. Okay. For the goal, acknowledging the limited availability and the need to prevent over exploitations. Despite the limited local consumption, they are saying that there is limited local consumption, the goldfish holds significant commercial importance because of the exports. Okay, particularly in the international market like China, Europe and the Middle Eastern countries, where it's valued for its taste and medical properties. So basically it is quite a costlier fish over there. So that is why the fishermen who catch this fish consider themselves as lucky, or they said that it is a lottery for them. Okay, fishermen consider the catching the gold as a lottery due to its high market demand. Its meat is exported as frozen fillet. Okay, and while its dried air bladder, this particular organ, dried air bladder, fetches highest value in the export markets. Okay, it has some kind of medical or other significance, because of which it is more expensive, and that is why they consider it as a lottery. Okay, here you can see. So that would be all for this new segment. Now we will look at the practice question which was given into you in the last live session. Which innovative gene editing tool holds promise for a potential permanent cure for sickle cell anemia, as demonstrated in the recovery of the world's first patient, Victoria Gray? As I told you, this particular thing has happened in UK, and they have actually authorized this particular treatment over there. Okay, so answer is your CRISPR-Cas9. This is a gene editing tool. Okay, you can say Cas9 is a molecular scissor. So basically what they do is they target the infected gene and replace it with the healthier gene. Okay, so answer is CRISPR-Cas9, that has been used in the gene editing technology, and that particular technology has been used in the treatment or cure of the sickle cell anemia. Okay, so today's question would be, which part of the goldfish fetch the highest price in the export market? A, tail, B, dried air bladder, C, head, and D, fins. Okay, you have to attempt this question and answer in the comment box. So moving towards the mains question, explain the geopolitical stage in the Middle East, especially with respect to the Israel-Palestine issue. Discuss how a global and regional involvement can contribute to resolving in the crisis. So ultimately aim of giving this particular question was that I have discussed a particular editorial about it. Okay, so you can make a notes from this, and that would be all about for this topic when we are talking about Israel and Palestinians. Okay, so you can use those things in the answer writing directly. Ultimately, when we are talking about reading newspaper, there are many queries which I have been seeing, that how to read the newspaper. Okay, so ultimately you cannot go for each and every article, because it is a lengthy paper, 26 pages sometimes. So ultimately what you can do is you can go with the articles which resemble with your resonance with your syllabus. Okay, and then make notes out of it for this particular topic. Let's say you have some 200 topics in your syllabus. So all you have to do is you have to make 2 to 3 page notes for these 200 topics. Okay, nothing more than that. For your mains I'm talking about. For prelims you have to extract the information and write it somewhere. We are doing it for you. You can directly use it from here. Okay, so ultimately that is why I have given this question, that you can directly make a note. Okay, so that would be all for this particular episode. I'll wrap up the session here. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next session. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.